Let me tell you a little secret. I don't have a good memory. That's why when I was a medical student, I tried my best to learn medicine not through memory, but instead through comprehension and deduction. And you know what? For the most part, that worked. For instance, up to this day, I can deduce the symptomatology of most diseases by just thinking about the anatomy and physiology of the affected organ and thinking, okay, what would happen if this abnormal thing were to occur? This method worked so well that in fact I made entire videos about it here in the channel, and many of you guys seem to really find them useful. But, as many of you pointed out in that video, there's a problem with this method. Well, 4 problems to be exact. And these are their names. Because these guys, as you may know, have stuff that can't really be deduced. I mean, how did you do something like the Krebs cycle? Impossible, right? I mean, I guess you can maybe deduce that every time you see a dehydrogenase enzyme, you know that an NADH or FADH molecule is produced, so you remember one thing instead of 2. But how to remember everything else? So this is the part when most of us get acquainted with Anki and space repetition, and let's face it, we all hate it. We all despise the idea of having to repeat flashcards in increasing intervals until we die. It's just not fun, or practical for that matter. But what if there's another option? What if you could memorize everything these guys throw at you without so much space repetition? Well, that's what I want to teach you in this video. But before we go there, a word from our sponsor, UPDF. UPDF is an amazing PDF editor available in Mac, Windows, iOS, and Android. And what does it do? It makes your life easier. For instance, many medical students I know study for the USMLE exam by purchasing the first aid book. They take off the cover and they put the book in a binder and they start adding like pages in blank to start annotating at their will. But how many steps does that involve? A lot of steps, right? So UPDF tells you, no, you don't have to mess your life like that. All you need to do if you want to write something is press this button right here and then you can write whatever you want. Oh, but I want to type. I don't want to write, I want to type. Okay, no worries, you just click here and then you type whatever you want. Oh, but what if I run out of space? Well, don't worry, you just click here where it says organize the PDF and then you add a page. And there you can write or type whatever you want. And hey, you can even insert pictures if that's what your heart desires. You see? Easy. Another example, have you ever wanted to use the content of a book or a PDF, but you wanted to change it a little bit? Like you wanted to maybe add a few words, change a few words, something like that? For instance, there were several occasions in medical school where I wanted to include the table of an article, of a really good table, but that was missing a few words. And I thought, I really don't want to create a new table just to add those few words. I want to use that table. So well, UPDF tells you, no worries, all you have to do is press this edit button and modify whatever you want. And once you're happy with the result, you can screenshot the table and put it in your notes, your presentations, whatever. So that's the point of UPDF, to help you do everything you usually do, but avoiding the 5 steps it usually takes you to do it. So for instance, you want to email the PDF to someone, well, you don't have to open email and do all of those steps, no, you just have to press here where it says send, and you send it to whatever address you want. So you want to protect your PDF. Okay, you don't have to use another application to do so, just click here and you add your password. You want to convert your PDF to an image or a Word document or whatever you want. Well, you just have to click here and convert it, select your location, and that's it. So if anything I just mentioned sounds interesting to you, make sure to download for free UPDF using the link below and start testing these features. And if you like what you see, remember you can use the 40% off discount link I'll leave in the description below for your purchase. Thanks UPDF for sponsoring this video. Okay, so what I want to do now is walk you through a little exercise. It's gonna take only a couple of minutes, but if you do it correctly, and by that I mean if you really try to imagine what I tell you to imagine, you'll understand why I think this is such a huge deal and how this can help you memorize a ton of information without repeating it so much. So I want you to imagine yourself in front of the door of your home. Really picture yourself there. And I want you to imagine that Maradona is standing right in front of your door. Maradona, for those who don't know, is this guy. He was a very famous football player from Argentina, and most people know him because of La Mano de Dios, a goal he scored with his hand in a quarterfinal against England. So imagine this guy standing right in front of your door with his shirt off in all of his glory. But instead of having this little bit of hair, imagine him fully covered in fur, like something really, really gross. Like there's fur in his chest, in his armpits, in his back, there's fur everywhere, and it smells really, really awful, right? So try to imagine that awful picture in your head. Then imagine opening the door and entering into the first room of your home. For me, that's my garage, but you can imagine whatever first space you happen to come across. And I want you to imagine that there are three groups of people standing in opposite corners of that room. In the first corner, you see Hades, this guy, the villain from the Hercules movie.
Problem. Name is Hades, Lord of the Dead. Hi, how you doing?
So imagine him holding a tennis racket. Why is he holding a tennis racket? I don't know, you ask him. But the point is he is holding a tennis racket. Now, in the other corner, there is Neville Longbottom, the guy from Harry Potter movies that somehow went from looking like this to looking like this. So yeah, that guy. That guy is holding a really big cup of an effervescent drink. Something humongous, really. And that effervescent drink is making a mess, sparkling all over the floor, making you think, oh my god, I'm gonna have to clean this later, making all of these bubbly sounds. Right, so imagine that picture. And finally, in the other corner of the room, there is Zelda, which is this guy that looks like very similar to Robin Hood, but is from a very popular video game called, well, Zelda. So imagine that guy, and that guy is flirting with the singers from ABBA. You know ABBA, right? The guys from Mamma Mia, Here I Go Again. Yeah, those guys. Okay, so Hades, Neville, and Zelda flirting with ABBA. Now, then you move to the next room. And in this room, you find a total mess because someone spilled gravy all over the floor. Gravy is that sauce that comes from the juices of meats. You've probably tasted it. It looks like this, has a very distinct flavor. So imagine that there is gravy all over the floor. It makes a mess, and you're thinking, oh my god, I have to clean all of this thing. So imagine the smell, the texture. Literally try to imagine all of the room filled with gravy. And then you find that Robert Downey Jr. is in the middle of the room with the pot of gravy. So you realize, oh, it was him who dropped the gravy. Okay, and finally you move into the final room where you find a couple of very tough Navy SEALs, like all jacked up and buffed, doing push-ups. And you go ahead, you ask their names, and one of them is called Renee, just like the Renee test. And the other one is called loin, which, if you haven't searched for the definition, apparently it is defined as the region of the sexual organs regarded as the source of erotic or provocative power. So yeah, loin and Renee. And that's it. Now try to go through all of those characters a couple of times in your head, and you'll see that remembering all of the characters is not that hard. As I said, it requires a couple of attempts, but it's not impossible. And the best part is that once you manage to remember all of the characters, you're just one step away from remembering the names of all the antiretrovirals. So let's go through it one more time as I show you how to remember the antiretrovirals with this story. So who was the first guy that you encountered in your house or outside of your house? It was Maradona, right? And what did Maradona have? A lot of fur, right? Okay, so that is there to remind you of the couple of antiretrovirals that block the entrance of HIV into the cell, which are Maraviroc and Enfuvirtide. So Maradona, Maraviroc, right? Mara, and fur, Enfuvirtide. I think it's spelled like that, Enfuvirtide. Okay, so those are the first couple. Then you move into the next room, and who you find first? You find Hades, right? And what did Hades have? A tennis racket. That should make you remember of the nucleotide reverse transcriptase inhibitors, adefovir and tenofovir. So Hades, adefovir, and tennis racket, tenofovir, right? So who was next? There was Neville, right, with his effervescent drink. So that should make you remember of Neville, nevirapine, and effervescent, efavirenz. Nevirapine, efavirenz. Easy, right? Now, next there was Zelda, and Zelda is Zelda hitting on ABBA, right? And Zelda is an acronym that makes you remember of the nucleoside reverse transcriptase inhibitors, which are sidovudine, emtricitabine, lamivudine, didanosine, and abacavir. And as you just saw, all of them finishing in, right? Sidovudine, emtricitabine, lamivudine, didanosine, except for abacavir. So to make you remember that is the one that finishes differently, there is the ABBA crew that Zelda was hitting on the ABBA singers, right? So ABBA, abacavir. Okay, and then you move on to the next room. And what did you saw here? You saw the gravy sauce all over the floor, right? So this gravy sauce is there to make you remember that all of the medications in this next class, which are the integrase inhibitors, and by the way, the classes which we're describing is in the order of the viral cycle. So if you know the viral cycle, which should be like a first principle kind of concept, then this is just a matter of going through step by step. So the gravy sauce. And the gravy sauce is there to make you remember that all of the integrase inhibitors finish with gravy, with gravir, right? Gravy, gravir. And who was in the middle of the room? It was Robert Downey Jr. And so Robert Downey Jr. Has his name should make you remember of the first couple of integrase inhibitors. Raltegravir, just Robert Raltegravir, and Dolutegravir. And then you move into the last room where you saw the Navy SEALs doing push-ups. And what were their names? It were Rene and Loin. So each name gives you the initials of the 4 important protease inhibitors, which are the last class of drug, right? So Loin, lopinavir, and indinavir, Lo-in, right? And Rene, ritonavir, and nelfinavir. And they are navies because all of the names in this class finish with navir, so Navy, navir. So pause the video and go through the names a couple of times. I know that it requires a little bit of effort, you have to make the associations, and that takes a couple of walkthroughs to really consolidate the information. But if you do it a couple of times, you'll see that by walking through the mental palace, which is what we just did, a mental palace, remembering the names is not that hard. And once you have the names really learned, you can move on to learn better, like the mechanism of action, how they are delivered in combo, like all of the other stuff that you go on ahead and learn it through layers, right? But this is really the first part, and this is the part that many students really struggle with. And if you just did the activity correctly, you probably just memorized a whole bunch of topics, basically this whole image, in a couple of minutes, and having fun, I think, if you ask me, because I think this is more fun than just starting to write all of the names in Anki. So that is the beauty of these sort of techniques. They help you remember topics, complex topics, without having to spend your life just doing flashcards in Anki. Now, that is also why I decided to create a course, a class, teaching you how to use these sort of techniques, how to do them for yourself, because I created this mental palace, but mental palaces and all of these sort of techniques work better when you do them yourself. So that's what I want to teach you in that course, how to do yourself these sort of things to memorize the topics you want to learn. I'm hoping to release this course next month, hopefully, if everything goes according to plan, and I want you to watch it. So if you're interested in that, you want to watch it, you want to receive a free trial link in your mail, you just need to leave me your email in the survey I'll leave in the description below. Just leave me your email, I'll send you the mail once the course is out, and hopefully you can benefit from the content in that course. Let me know if you would like to see more medical mental palaces like the one we just did, maybe with a topic that's giving you a hard time. I would love to do that. And that's basically it. Thanks for seeing, and I'll see you in the next one.